Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of CampusCare EdTalks. EdTalks is a platform where educators and leaders come on board and express their viewpoints related to society and education. Our topic for the discussion is what is classroom management and why is it important? And to express their viewpoints on the same, we have with us Mr. Rajendra Malwal, Principal of Bhagwati International Public School. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
We are good to have you, sir. So, to start off with the session, sir, the first question is why is classroom management an important skill?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much, ma'am, for this wonderful opportunity and your organization, Entab, for selecting me to interact with the educators around the world. Classroom management, first of all, before I talk about why it is important and pertinent to know what is classroom management. Like every word or every coin, it is said that every coin has a two sides. So I feel that every word has two meanings. Mainly, if we talk about in general sense, classroom management is considered as if it is just related to classroom discipline. But when we talk about technical terms, especially being educators, classroom management has deeper meaning. It goes beyond the particular perceptions related to discipline, but even in technical term or in the words of educators, it is far beyond discipline, which encompasses, I should say, all the activities that lets educators or teachers teach and students learn. So when we talk about students activities or teachers activities, there are varieties of activities teachers do in the classroom in addition to teaching. So all those things, like it may be a kind of time management, it may be a kind of a lesson transaction, it may be as I said, that student discipline, and then it may be the instructional management. So there are many areas which are a part of classroom management, and it is basically important because more than teaching learning, there are many things which teachers are required to have, which there are many skills other than command over the content, and the command over the skill to deliver that is required. So I feel that it is important. So being professional teachers or being skilled teachers, they need to have a good command over classroom management, because content and delivery are I think that 10% of the skills required. So classroom management includes all those activities which permits teachers to materialize or to deliver the content in the classroom, and at the same time which helps students to receive what is being delivered. So this is all I feel that summarizes the classroom management. But there are time management, there are activities which lead to content management, and there are activities which lead to student discipline. So in other words, I can say that classroom management is a detailed area or detailed expertise which is required for teachers to gain confidence and command over before they get into the classroom teaching.
Absolutely, sir. So, classroom management is nothing but, a wide spectrum wherein we have to talk a
Yeah.
lot about what is exactly, what all it includes. So, to shorten up, you very nicely put it across. Yeah, to so come up with another thing is how to stop classroom management, from being too strict.
Yeah, classroom management, ma'am, as I said, it is a discipline, maybe a smaller part of that. But when we talk about discipline, it does not mean that being very strict. Discipline has got a positive sense. It is like having everything in accurate quantity. So when we say classroom management, it never meant that being too strict in the classroom. As I said in the beginning, also classroom management is are all those activities which permit teachers to teach and students to learn, and discipline is hardly 10% of that. And even when we talk about having discipline, it does not mean being very strict. So gone are the days where strictness was appreciated. These days, being lenient, being open to the students and being closer to the student is considered a better sign of a teacher, of a good or a dedicated teacher, I should say, or a real teacher. So discipline or strictness is never into is not a part, or is not a stress, or is not a very important feature of classroom management.
Absolutely, sir. So, don't you think it depends also? So, yeah, you said that, being lenient is the new way of, teaching and understanding.
Yeah.
But what I come from and where I understand it, there are certain teachers who are very strict, and, they have to have that decorum and they have to have that discipline while, you are into a classroom and how you behave and how you, supposed to do certain things. So I think there is certain strictness that is also required, don't you think?
There, as you said, ma'am, there are many teachers who are very strict, and there are many schools which are very strict. But I really feel sorry to say that strict people are not appreciated. And when, especially, there are two types of teachers, as you said, some teachers are very strict, and there are other teachers who are lenient. But being lenient does not mean that they compromise with the quality of teaching in the class or quality of discipline in the class. So being strict, I don't think that is very much required these days. By being lenient, also we can be a disciplinarian in the classroom, or we can have perfect discipline in the classroom. So now, being actually the classroom is not a military type scenario where we need to have very strict discipline. I feel that strictness is a story of the olden times.
Absolutely, sir. I just recall a phrase wherein my teacher used to say, I'm being lenient, but I'm equally firm with you guys. So not being
Yes,
strict.
yes, yeah. That type of discipline is required, ma'am. To be lenient, but as I said in the beginning, like being lenient does not mean compromising anywhere. We can be lenient, but at the same time, we can be firm at our decisions. Like the student should know that teacher is a friend, but at the same time, there is a distance that has to be maintained.
All right, so I just want to understand. So, if what is exactly classroom management? So, what are the key essentials if we talk about classroom management, or what exactly does it hold? So, for example, you initially said that it's discipline, then it's interaction, so that then it's how a teacher is teaching and actually making a classroom which is friendly. And so,
Yes, ma'am.
what are the key factors that could get involved if we talk about classroom management?
Yeah, ma'am. As I said in the beginning, classroom management is more than discipline. It is, there are basically, if you say, many phases of classroom management. One part of classroom management is related to instructor, that is teacher. Like when we talk about classroom management from the angle of the teacher, it may be like time management, it may be the classroom discipline, which really mean that controlling the student. Then it may be time management. Many a time teacher may be very good at teaching, but many a time they are unable to deliver the content on time. So even that delivery of content on time is also a kind of classroom management. Then there are instructional strategies where teacher need to decide that what mode of methodology he need to adopt for delivering a particular kind of stuff. Then there are classroom management from the angle of the student, like what strategy, teaching methodology he need to use, how much strict he has to be, what should be the classroom scenario, like seating arrangement in the classroom, what should be the discipline policy in the classroom, what should be the methodology for giving notes, collecting notes, ensuring that every student is studies. Then there may be certain policies from the angle of the school management, like which subject has to be allotted to whom, how much time or instructional hours has to be allotted for a particular subject, then which teacher has to be allotted which subject, then how much should be the time allotted for particular subject. So all these things which are a part and parcel of teaching learning in the classroom are part of classroom management.
Agreed, sir. But don't you think that you're missing something like student interaction and student interactivity? Because if we
Yeah,
talk
those
about,
those I talked about them. Maybe exactly I did not use these words, like the teacher's decision about what methodology of teaching he need to adopt, and then second is students' learning habits. So a combination of teaching and learning habit is also a part of part of classroom management, where teacher decides which methodology he has to adopt based on the students he has in the classroom. When even we conduct trainings on teaching learning methodologies, we say that there are varieties of learners in the classroom with varieties of learning habits. So a classroom management from the teacher's side is to decide which methodology he has to use, how much he has to use, and for how many students he has to use, for how many days he has to use. So all these are a part of classroom management.
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah.
So, turning on to the end of it, we would like to know how important is student involvement in the whole process.
Student involvement, ma'am, if we talk about the 21st century teaching learning, or if we go through these NEP recommendations of National Education Policy, or even the present day advocacy about the classroom teaching learning, it talks about student centered approach or experiential learning. So where involvement of a student is very important. Gone are the days where when teachers were considered as sages on the stage. Now these days I feel that if 40 minutes time is there, at least 75% of the time should go for students interaction. So it is very important that we involve the student in the process of teaching learning. We involve the students in speaking process. We adopt certain strategies which involve the student to participate, to collaborate, to create, to innovate, to discuss, to debate. So I feel that student involvement is very much important, and we should see that whenever, like we at our place, we ensure and we emphasize that when teacher goes for teaching, he should go with a purpose that he will not be active for more than 15 minutes, and then rest of the time he should ensure that his students are participating. And when I talk about 15% or 15 minutes, it does not mean in one go. So if total interaction period, if we study or if we observe a class of 40 minutes, the teacher interaction should not be more than 15 minutes, or more than 25%, and remaining 75% interaction should come from the other end, that is from the student side. And this is what this NEP talks about, that is student involvement, and this is what I feel that is student centered approach also advocates. So learning will only come once children participate actively in the process of learning, and that will only happen when there is a room for student interaction and involvement in the classroom. So every teacher has to ensure that there is always a scope for student participation in any form. Even many a time when we talk about experiential learning, it does not mean taking students to laboratories. Even when we have thrown a question that involves a student into a thinking process, it's a kind of participation in the process of teaching learning. So teacher should decide which methodology fits in his classroom, or in his particular lesson or particular content he has decided to deliver in the class.
Absolutely, sir. So, sir, I just want to really understand the fact that what if, see, NEP 2020 hasn't been the policy which has been, has to be strictly followed by all the schools. Do you think even then, these changes could have been inculcated in the education system altogether?
This student-centered approach, I mean, student-centered approach, of course, it has been highlighted in NEP, but I'm sure that if you are into teaching profession, like I am into teaching profession for last more than two plus decades. So I feel that this feature, especially in CBSE curriculum, is not new. Even when I came into teaching profession, since those days, student involvement in education has been emphasized. But I'm sure that, and with NEP, there will be certain strategies which will ensure, like if we talk about 21st century skills, of course 21st century skills were being talked about even the 21st century, before the 21st century started. But now the real steps or real initiatives are being taken to ensure that how it can be implemented in classroom. So recently we have conducted a program where we talked about, instead of what are 21st century skills, that how to map these 21st century skills in classroom, how to ensure that our students get those exposures. So I feel that is required, and through this NEP now more emphasis will be on these activities which normally advocates students participation in classroom, or increased participation in classroom.
Absolutely, sir. So what I feel is this NEP has, maybe made it mandate for the teachers, somebody who's grown in terms of their age, and who has, like you yourself said, that you have
Yeah.
an experience of over a decade or over 2 decades, to be
To go over
precise.
to the
Yeah. So for somebody like you who has always been into the traditional way of teaching and handling kids, maybe this NEP 2020 will make sure that even you as a faculty grow in terms of understanding what the new generation or these new
yeah.
millennials really need in life, and also the way it should be taught. Because like you said, gone are those
Yeah,
days when.
knowing is not enough, ma'am. But NEP talks about how to implement that in the classroom.
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah,
That's what. So it is just like gone, like to remains what you just said, is gone are those days when the faculties were there with their sticks and scales just to thrash their kids to in order to make them learn. Again, the motive was also positive that time also, and
yeah,
now also, if we've changed certain policies in terms of traditional learning as well as modern learning, so we have certain improvisations in terms of how you teach and the way you teach. So of course, classroom management is something that we should have really been working on, and will improve over time with a lot of changes that will make students interact, and the basic behind is student teacher interaction, to have a more interactive
more
classroom.
interactions. Yeah. Agreed. And I'm not criticizing the traditional methodology of teaching, because those days there were limitations. There were limitations from both the sides. Students were not like the students we have these days, so the teachers were also not the type we have today. So everything now, with the change situation, change world scenario, everything needs to change, and classroom changes are more important, because what is happening in the classroom will save the world of tomorrow.
Absolutely, sir. So it's like how the way you've been taught to grow is the way you've been learning to, project yourself to the
Perfectly,
world.
perfectly fine. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for
Thank
sharing
you
your
very much, ma'am.
knowledge
Thanks
and
a lot.
experience, and your reviews on this topic, and giving us such an insightful session wherein you talk a lot about we've been talking this about a lot, and now that we're implementing and we are into the charge of executing it, is making it more sense, and giving us more excitement towards the new way of learning. So with this note, I would like to I, Sakshi Jain, would like to sign off this session, and coming up with more new topics and more informative sessions. We will see you on the other side, but do subscribe our channel, hit the bell icon for notifications, and have a great